Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard.
Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today we have someone who's running for governor. Mr. Cordell is running for governor. So welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
If we could get started by you kindly introducing us to yourself, giving us a brief biographical sketch.
Okay, so I guess at the very beginning, my name is Seth Cordell. My wife and I are both chiropractors. We have a couple offices in central Kansas. I was born and raised in central Kansas, lived here most of my life. Born and raised in a very conservative Catholic household, which kind of comes into play, where, lots of rules and everything like that. And then I pretty much followed that all through high school. And then I went off to college and kind of continued in that. But then, due to an injury, I had to quit sports. I played college football and track. So I had a third in a string of very bad concussions, which knocked me out for a long time. And that sent me on a journey where I discovered the rest of the world. Traveled a decent bit, all domestic, but got to see a side of life that I didn't see in, small town Kansas. My hometown has about 500 people.
Okay.
And I started to understand more about how a lot of people live their lives, and really showed me that very starch conservative small town mindset, wasn't maybe the best thing out there, but I didn't know what else there was. So I kind of bounced around a little bit in all areas of life, and then ended up meeting my wife, got married at the age of 30, went back to chiropractic school, and that led to where I am today. As far as being in, a third party or an alternative party, I decided to join the Libertarian Party about the time of the Johnson campaign.
Okay.
I started looking at what else was out there, because I viewed and I've learned a lot more since then, but I viewed my economic policy as being more conservative, the small government that the Republican Party claims to be. But my social views were more on the liberal side. And so I was looking for something that fit. And then after joining the Libertarian Party, I really started investigating more into the Austrian School of Economics, and that's what really sealed the deal for me with libertarians.
Interesting. So since you're a chiropractor, how does your chiropractic profession inform your political views?
Well, I guess, chiropractic is lumped into an overarching alternative medicine.
Sure.
So, which does fit my personality. I've never, since high school, haven't really been one that just tries to follow the mainstream. But the main thing that made me go into chiropractic was I wanted to be in healthcare, but I was very frustrated with the healthcare system in America.
Huh.
And I also knew that I wanted to be my own boss, that I wouldn't really be happy working for a huge clinic or hospital, where I still couldn't really set my schedule. I had to, I wanted to go to my niece's ball game or my nephew's football game or something like that. I wanted to be able to say, I'm not going to work this evening. So that was a big part of it. And that working for myself, self-reliant streak that I have also fits in with my libertarian ideals, and that, I believe it is the responsibility of the individual to take care of themselves. So I think that fits in there too.
Sure. So kind of
being in healthcare, I was going to say, being in healthcare, it's also a very heavily regulated area where I think if the government would take a few steps back, it would help with the cost of everything. But
that makes sense. That sounds like a natural link between libertarianism and your profession, and you see the regulation firsthand. So kindly tell our audience what office you're running for.
I am currently seeking the nomination of the Libertarian Party for the governor of Kansas.
Okay.
Being a alternative party, a minor party, as we're called in Kansas, we don't have primaries. We have our convention coming up in April, and at convention, then we will vote for who gets the nomination for the office.
Sure. So what issues are on your campaign platform?
Well, it's kind of funny. People say, "Oh, yes, of course you're pro weed." Full legalization of cannabis is a big part of my platform. I lumped that in with my criminal justice reform.
Okay.
So my criminal justice reform would full legalization of cannabis, so recreational cannabis. Right now, there's a bill going through Kansas for legalization of medicinal, but even then, there wouldn't be any combustibles allowed, so it's only edibles that you'd be able to buy, which just allows the state to regulate things even further. So full legalization of cannabis, and so then along with that, the possession of any drug would be dropped to a misdemeanor.
Oh.
Another part of my personal backstory is that I'm a recovered alcoholic. I have been through recovery. I have a lot of friends that have been through recovery for a lot of different substances, and I've heard so many times that, I could have gone for help sooner, but I knew I would go to jail. Drug addicts are scared to get help because they know they're facing prison time for possession. And so if we could decrease the possession to a misdemeanor, that will allow those people to not be so afraid to go and seek help. I also am not against for-profit private prisons, so we would be reducing the prison population that way. And so that's the bulk of my criminal justice reform. There's a lot more to it, but then with my I call it free market food platform.
Okay.
It would be, I don't know if you're familiar with Maine and their cottage food laws.
No, I'm not.
I wasn't aware of it until I started developing this platform, and someone pointed out, like Maine's cottage food laws. Yeah, so not something that I was fully aware of until I started developing this, but the way the law is written, and this would be for any state, as long as a product or produce doesn't cross state lines, it is not subject to federal laws. So at the state level, we can reduce regulations on small farms that allow them to sell their goods for profit. Right now, there are a lot of small farms that are suffering or even just shutting down because they're unable to afford to keep up with the regulations that the state is putting on them. The state, and those states do this, not just Kansas, with a lot of things, they just copy the federal laws over into their state laws. So we would rewrite our state laws so that as long as something was grown, produced, manufactured, and sold in the state of Kansas without crossing any state lines, we would have relaxed regulations on those products so that the farmers can make more money. This would allow your neighbor to put up a greenhouse and grow tomatoes to sell to a restaurant down the street. Whereas right now, state laws don't allow that because they're not paying the state to inspect it and a whole course of other things.
Sounds like an innovative idea. I never heard of cottage foods before.
Yeah, Maine has their cottage food laws, so it would basically be expanding upon what Maine did with their cottage food laws.
Sounds good.
And then my third platform is more of a philosophical one, and it's limited and local. That I believe for government to be the most efficient it can be, the power within government needs to be limited and local. So you can, at the state level, it's extremely libertarian, where there's very few state laws and regulations, and then the counties can make things as strict as they want. So more power comes from the county level, actually, than from the state level. Because just like it's easier to reach your state representative or your state senator than it is to reach your national representative or national senator, then it's that much easier than to get a hold of your county commissioner or your city commissioner.
So who's your target audience as you seek this nomination? Who in the Libertarian Party are you trying to persuade?
It's not as much for me going after, trying to get the libertarians. The big thing for me, especially where we're at right now, and I think all of the alternative parties are going to be thinking this way, more and more people are becoming aware of how the two-party system is failing. That the two parties are basically inverse images of each other. They're the same thing. All they want to do is divide, and then that way they can do whatever they want. More and more people are realizing that we need more options. And so my goal for this campaign is to try to get out there and show people that there are more than two options, and to try to inspire other people to run for offices, especially, their city council, their county commission. Try to get more people to get involved in politics.
That sounds good. So for our audience out there who may be in your area or they may be elsewhere, how can they support your campaign?
Our website is Cordell4Kansas.com.
For the number 4? Or is it FOR?
FOR.
Okay. Cordell4Kansas.com. So they can go on that website and donate and or volunteer?
Yeah, there's a listing of my platforms. There's a contact page. There's a donate page.
All right. Sounds good.
And all of the other information will be there.
Okay. Sounds good. I trust people will go there. So when is this nomination occurring?
April 23rd is when we have our convention.
Okay.
As of now, there's nobody else that is lined up to run against me, but that could always change. So the big thing for me, like you said, what kind of market are you trying to reach within the Libertarian Party is one thing that I've committed to in my campaign is that I'm always going to be myself. I'm not going to change anything about me or the way I want to say things. So, I gave you the goals of my campaign, and with that, the way that I'm messaging everything is, I want people to understand that there are rational libertarians. I know we get a bit of a bad reputation, if you will, for some of our antics, but there are those of us out there that are really trying to reach out and help people and just show people that there is a third choice.
Sounds good. So Seth, thank you for coming on the podcast today and talking about your campaign. We wish you all the best in that campaign, and may you get that nomination come April.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. All the best to you, the Libertarian Party of Kansas, and everyone else you're associated with.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.